Here is a requested illustration on how to achieve this wrap notched blazer dress with layered gathers or layered flea.
To cut this dress is a child's dress, so the measurement you need is just your shoulder to bust and your shoulder to waist, right? Now, the next step you take is to mark your shoulder divided by 2, and you're going to add ½ inch to it because you attach a sleeve. Now come down by 1 inch here. Go ahead to mark a basic neckline of 3 inches. Let's take this as 3 inches. We are working on this pattern in form of an illustration. I'll come down by 1 inch here and I'll go ahead to connect this. After connecting to this point, I'll connect all the way to the shoulder. So the next step now is to go ahead to find your chest line, which is your armhole, and to get that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So let's take it to be this point because we are doing this in form of an illustration, and I'll mark out a straight line at that point. Whatever measurement you have on the shoulder, place it back on the chest line. Go ahead to place your ruler and connect. Now I'm going to divide what I have there into 2 equal parts and I will mark. So I'll come in by ½ inch here, mark the round bust measurement divided by 4 here. Connect from here to here and here. Now go ahead to mark the measurements. Mark the bust circumference divided by 4, then add your stitching allowance. Here, this dress is more like a blazer dress that has like a layered flea. So when you're making a blazer dress, you don't need much sewing allowance. So here mark the waist circumference divided by 4 and also add the sewing allowance. You can go ahead to connect. So after connecting, I'll go ahead to cut out. We are done drafting out the back pattern of this dress. Now we're going to move over to the front pattern of this dress after cutting this out. Now I'll use this pattern to trace out that of the front, right? So for the neckline, you need to take the round measurements you have at the neckline. So if you're using a normal measurement, which is 3 by 1 inch, what you'll be having here should be 3.5, but since it's a child, I don't think the neckline should be up to 3 inches. The neckline should be around 2.5 inches, right, by 1 inch for the back, or you can use 2 inches by 1 depending on the size of the child, the age of the child, sorry. So let's say what I have here now is 2.2 inches. What to do now is I'm going to place this on this pattern, right, and I'll draw out a straight line. Now I'm going to place this and I'm going to trace out what I have on this point. Make sure that I have a straight line here. So from the neckline, I'll mark the neckline, draw out the shoulder slant, and I will connect. Then make sure the sides are the same, right? So this is what I have here, which I'll be tracing out much later. So for the neckline of this front, I'll mark 3 inches. I'll use a pencil to mark it so that in case when I alter the pattern. So since the blazer is a child's dress, you can use 2.5 inches, and then I'll use 2 inches, 2.5 here also. So the next step I'm going to take is to come up a bit from the waistline, right? So you can come up by 2 to 3 inches from the waistline, and I'm going to connect from this point now to the 3 inches. So let me just make sure that I have 3 inches here so that it won't be too much. Now I'll go ahead to place and I will connect. Now after connecting, you know this neckline measurement you have here, you're going to transfer it all the way to the upper part of this pattern, and I will draw out a straight line. Sorry, the line is not straight, so I'll draw out a straight line from here, right? Make sure you blend it out so that it can relax very well. So come out by ½ inch here and then blend it into your pattern so that your collar can relax. Now for the width of the collar, you can use 3 inches. But before doing that, I'm going to extend this out all the way to this point. Then I'll go ahead to connect it. So after connecting it at this point, I will come in by 1.5 or 1 inch. Then I will take my tape up this way and mark 1.5 inches and connect. So this is how I want the notch collar to be. You can use 1 inch depending on what you want to use. So I'll go ahead to extend here out. So just like I said, for the collar, I want to use 3 inches. Right?
Because I'm doing this in form of an illustration, I'll just mark what I have there.
So I'll go ahead to connect this, right? So this is what I have. Let me use my marker to.
So I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern, and after that to draft out the lower part of this dress. So after marking out, I'll go ahead to cut out the excess I have on the pattern, and this is what I have. Now let's go ahead to work on the lower part of this dress.
Before cutting out the lower part, you have to join the upper part of your pattern together. So let me go ahead and use my tape and hold this. Let me just act as if I'm sewing this, right?
I'll just go ahead and use the pattern paper to join the sides and the shoulder of this dress, and also join the collar back.
So do is for the lower part of this dress, we have an overlap. So for the overlap, I'll use the main fabric. For the lower part, I'll be using lining. So what you do is get the round waist measurement of that child, and you can add extra 10 to 15 inches to it for the lining part of it. So now let's just say this is the lining of this dress, right? And for the lining, it's meant to be shorter than the actual length of the dress, right? So let's just say this is the lining. Now what I'll now do is I'm going to cut this exact overlap, and I'm going to use the same fabric for here, while here it will be lining, right? So what I'll just do is whatever I have from here to here will be the same. I'll add ½ inch to it, because you'll be using that ½ inch to join it to the lining piece of your dress this way, right? When you join it, that has the overlap here. Now what we now do after doing this, now we're going to like make whatever you have here will come all the way from the front to the back and to the other side. You know, this is a wrap blazer, right? Whatever you have is going to connect from here all the way to the back, then to the other side of this dress, right? So we are just working on one side because this is an illustration and we are not making the dress. Now what you're going to do is you're going to cut out layers of fabric which you're going to gather on the lining of this dress, just as if you are making a layered dress, right? You're going to cut out fabric different lengths, and you're going to gather,
and you're going to start attaching it to the lining. So if you don't want to cut this in form of a straight fabric and gather it, you can go ahead to cut it in form of a flay. But cutting it in form of a flay will take this a lot of fabric, but you can still achieve this dress by cutting it out on a straight line. By the time you create this split, is going to form like a flay on it. So what I'll do is I'll remove it. So you don't have to join the lining to the center part first. You have to go ahead to create splits, or add your flay or your gathered fabric to the lining first before going ahead to join it to the dress. Because it's an illustration, what I'll do is I'm just going to add like only 2 layers to mine, and I'll join it back to the center part. So I will reduce this part, right? I just reduce this so that it will match up, and then attach the center part back to it. And after you're done doing that, go ahead to now join this dress back, forming this dress that has like a blazer at the upper part and a layered gathers at the lower part of the dress. So if you have any question, please go ahead to ask. So this is the final result.